Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Moxxie Coaching Podcast. My name is Michele, and I'll be your host as we explore what coaching is and how it can help you create your best life. If you're anything like me, it's important to you to give back in some way. Maybe it's volunteering in the soup kitchen. Maybe it's donating $1 million to environmental research. It doesn't really matter. I started coaching and podcasting because I'm just one person who can only do so much alone. And I realized that through coaching and through podcasting, I could help and support those of you who want to do good works and exponentially increase the amount of good that I'm able to do. So if this sounds like you, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Moxxie Coaching Podcast. I'm having a hard time believing that we are already almost through January, and by the time you guys hear this, we will be through January. It's crazy how fast time is flying these days. All right, so speaking of time, by this time next month, we will be starting to introduce more tarot content that has practical applications. We're going to be talking today about the sixes. We'll wrap up 7 through 10 over the next 4 weeks, and then we'll be able to launch into some of the practical applications and uses for the cards in self-coaching and in their, in our daily lives. I'm also hoping to do some episodes that dive more deeply into the relationships between the cards, especially the cards that people feel are similar or offer a very similar message. And I also think that it would be really cool to be able to figure out how to work with you guys and work on interpreting cards in various contexts. Because, while we're learning the traditional meanings, it takes a while to learn to let your brain shift around a little bit inside of your known comfortable meaning of the card, and let it sort of shift over to, well, what would it mean if this card is in the context of a work relationship versus a personal relationship, or how would it be different if I got the 10 of Swords in a work situation versus a reading about my health, those kinds of things. So I'm getting excited that now we have been through all of this basic foundational stuff, we're going to have the chance to really kind of dig in and have some fun. Before we launch into today's content, though, I again wanted to thank everybody for being here, for all of the listens, and offer a reminder and an invitation to you to share, like, and subscribe so more people can benefit. We have more and more listeners every week, and I'm just having such a ball sharing all of this information with you. So if you find it valuable, please share it with someone else. Lastly, in terms of announcements, the new website is up. It still needs a little bit of work, but it is far more functional and much easier to navigate than the old one. So if you are looking for information, more detailed information about coaching or tarot reading, you should be able to find it in a much simpler fashion. All right, I think that's it. Let's get started. We talked just a little bit last week about the odd numbers and the even numbers in numerology, and how it seems like the odd numbers are a little bit more about states of agitation and challenge and difficulty, and the even numbers are more about stability and um, sort of, the places where we want to focus, I guess. Um, Stability, harmony, um, flow, all of those types of things. So, in general, the sixes, if we were to come up with some keywords for the number six, the numeral six in numerology, we might talk about spiritual balance. We might talk about expression and expressing ourselves. We might talk about emotion or harmony, compassion, maybe enlightenment. So, all of these, I don't even know what to call them, warm, fuzzy aspects, I guess. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the sixes are warm, fuzzy cards. Um, most of them are pretty good, though. We're going to begin with the Six of Cups. Speaking of nice little cards, the image on the Six of Cups is a boy offering a cup of flowers to a little girl. And each of the six cups is filled with flowers. And they're in this very pleasant looking yard situation, but in a probably a fairly wealthy situation because there's a guard behind them uh, guarding stuff. And just the general vibe of the card, it's just very simple and very sweet. It's yeah, it's kind of like pure, I guess is a nice way to put it. When this card comes up in a reading, it often comes up around children or childhood. It could indicate fond memories or some sort of nostalgia, maybe remembering a fond memory of childhood. Um, it could also be connected to your childhood or something in the past, an event in the past as an ongoing factor in this situation. But usually it's a positive factor. So, it's not like a negative experience where there's a negative association with it. This is a positive association with whatever it is from your past. It's also often about something positive, something from the past coming up in the present, about reminiscing. I mean, this card would be, if I had to choose one scenario for this card, it would be either two sisters who haven't seen each other in a very long time getting together. And you know how when you haven't seen someone that you care about for a long time and you can sit there for hours and talk and talk and talk, this card would come up in that type of a situation. It's just this familiarity, um, potentially common memories, potentially common positive memories. It could also, if it is not such a happy reading, let's say there's, something something going on in your life that is challenging you and this card comes up. Well, because this card is about the past, it could be asking you to take a look at what happened in the past. It could be telling you, maybe the root problem is not really what's going on here. Maybe it's something that occurred to you or with you or something you did in the past that needs to be addressed in order for you to move on in a healthy way. So what are the questions that would come up or potentially come up? And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of questions. I highly recommend you start a list of your own questions. Okay, however, these are mine. What am I being reminded of that's relevant to my current situation? So this card is coming up. Why? Basically, it's saying, why is this card here? You know, what is going on in my life that is reminding me of something that I need to take a look at? It could be asking us, is relevant to this situation or this event, or this time. You know, let's say it's something that's repetitive. What's going to be different this time? Or what are you counting on being the same, good, bad, or otherwise? Is there strength that I can draw from cueing into the past in some way? So this card is saying, look at your past. So what strength can I draw from that? Or what can I learn from that? Or what can I glean from taking the time to delve into the past and look at those things? You might want to ask how your childhood and the past in general relate to whatever the situation is around the reading. You know, there are so many things that we don't even realize are triggers. And I don't mean like big, huge emotional triggers. I mean like mental triggers to remembering something. And take some time to really think about how your childhood, how your past may be related to this situation, and just sit with it for a minute and see what comes up. You might be surprised. You know, it might be, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember I had this conversation with so and so and I felt this way, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. The last question I came up with is a much more general one, and probably one I would use in a situation where the card came up and, you know, the reading is not a big, serious, in-depth, no, not in-depth, not a serious topic, where the reading is more general or more open to just seeing what the cards wanted to say as opposed to asking a specific question. I hope that makes sense. Meaning that sometimes when I do a tarot reading, I will have very specific questions in mind and assign each card specific questions, like a traditional tarot spread. And then other times, I usually actually prefer just to see what the cards say when they come up randomly. I don't put them in a spread. And it's easier for me that way to look at the relationships between the cards and see how they work with one another, see how they talk to each other, and what we can learn from that. So that's the type of reading where it's just a big, broad, general reading. What does the universe want me to see? What does the universe want me to know? What does the universe want to share with me? All of those types of questions. So, and it could also come up in personal development work, you know, where you are working on a particular aspect of yourself. But anyway, long story. The question is, why might the universe be extending an invitation for me to look at my past as related to this situation? Why might the universe basically be saying, hey, you need to take a look at this? It might benefit you to take a look at this situation. And if it's not telling you to look at something specific, what is it telling you to look at? It's telling you to look for an event that may be related to the situation, that may have some impact, or may have had some impact without you even realizing it. So in general, it's a nice little card. It gives us an opportunity to, and an invitation to look back, evaluate, see how all of the pieces of our lives fit together, and notice, where we may need to put some attention and do some work. Next, we'll talk about the Six of Wands. The card itself is an image of a well-to-do male figure on a horse that looks like it's decked out for some sort of parade or celebration or something along those lines. The guy is carrying a wand with a wreath on it, and he has a laurel leaf wreath around his head. And in the background, there are people holding up the remaining 5 sticks, or the remaining 5 wands. So this card is all about the prodigal child coming home. It's about someone, potentially good news coming. It's about victory. It's about advancement in career or work or project. It is a very positive card overall. It can indicate someone who is good at leadership, someone who could lead others into victory, whether it is in battle or in social media or business or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's more of a personality trait than about anything that we might associate, normally with victory, like a battle or something. Could be, but not necessarily. This card might come up in a reading about a child of yours. It may come up in a reading about work or career, or somewhere that you are actively trying to move something forward. And both of those situations are nice examples in terms of, it's just like overall a pretty positive card to get. Good news is coming in general is kind of what this card means. Could mean your project is coming to an end successfully. But keep in mind, it's not a final outcome. This is more of a situation where, and again, to use the victory metaphor, but it's like, yes, you won the battle, but you still have the rest of the war to go. So, excuse me. So it's more of a pat yourself on the back, but don't get cocky, because you still have a long road ahead of you. Okay, so what are the questions? Again, if you're lucky, it'll make perfect sense. We all hope and wish that every time we turned up a card, it was just like the angels singing, and we knew exactly what it meant and exactly how it should be interpreted in that situation. However, that's not really the case. So let's see here. How can we interpret this? And what kind of questions can we ask? Well, let's stick with the victory thing for a minute. Where is the victory? What were you victorious? Or about what was the person in this reading victorious? Or are they just proud of themselves for something? It could be just, maybe you passed the bar exam and you are the shit, and you were up there on your horse, and it was just like, yes, I did it. I fought. I conquered. Now the battle's not over because I want to be a Supreme Court justice, but I passed the bar. That's my first step. Yay me. So we could look at it from that perspective. That's what the victory is. You might also, though, okay, what am I trying to say? So you can look at it from the perspective of, yes, it's a victory, I'm happy. But you also may, because it's not this energy of completion, is it really the final victory? Are you satisfied, right? This, the lawyer's not satisfied. They want to be a Supreme Court justice. So, yes, that was the victory, but is this person satisfied? No, not necessarily. Are you satisfied? Yes or no? You also might want to ask yourself if the victory was a fulfilling one or if it was a hollow victory. And sometimes we're the only ones, almost always we're the only ones that can answer that. But really looking at, was it a victory and an achievement that you can feel good about? Or is it one that you worked really hard to achieve and it left you feeling empty, or was it something you're not proud of? If you're working on a project, like a work project or something along those lines, this card could be a sign that the project is on track and it is likely to be a successful one. So again, if it comes up in a reading and you're trying to figure out why, well, what is it that you're working on? What is it that you've been working toward for maybe a little while now that that is looking for your attention, or is maybe coming to a pausing point in the cycle where it's trying to get your attention and it's just saying, yes, you are on the right track. You also might want to look at, depending on how it comes up in the reading, whether this is you or whether this is someone else. Are you the victorious one? Or is this someone else who is the victorious one? Maybe, like I said earlier, this is your child coming home. Maybe your partner is going to have a promotion soon, or is finishing up something that is leaving them feeling just like a rock star, and that's awesome. And then lastly, I think you could ask yourself something along the lines of, is my leadership needed somewhere? This person is very clearly comfortable in the public eye. This person is very clearly confident in whatever it is that they're doing and has a leadership vibe. And so this card may be coming up and it may be wanting you to ask yourself, do I need to step up my leadership in this situation or in a particular situation? Maybe I need to be setting a better example, or maybe I need to, teach this, that, or the other thing to this group of people because they need this information, and my offering my leadership is going to benefit everyone. And where could I do that, and what could that be? All right. Six of Pentacles. This is a nice little card. I always like getting this one. In general, keywords, things to keep in mind about this card. It's about generosity. It's about sharing, about charity, social justice, balancing of resources, or like an even distribution of resources for maximum benefit for the whole. Some people would look at it like socialism, right? But I suppose you could if you're looking for one word to kind of sort of describe it, that might be it. Making sure that there's enough for everybody, because there is enough for everybody. Our systems just don't work in a way that we're very good at sharing, right? So anyway, that's another soapbox. Okay, so this card has 3 figures. 2 figures are on their knees looking up at the standing figure with adoration and with their hands out as if they're begging. And then the standing person is clearly a well-to-do person. He is holding a scale in one hand, and in the other hand he's dropping coins into one of the kneeling people's hands. And then around him are 6 pentacles. So that's it in a nutshell, right? There's the generosity, there's sharing, the scales, there's the social justice, and the balancing out of resources. And what this card often asks us to do when it comes up is to look at our personal situation, our resources as related to whatever situation the reading is. What is our personal situation? Do we have more than enough? Do we have enough that we can share? And if we do, in what way can you share it? And it doesn't have to be money, can you share your time? Can you share your wisdom? Can you share whatever? But is there something that you have that you can share? And likewise, or on the opposite side, I guess the flip side, are you in a situation where you need some help? And if you are in that situation when you need some help, that's okay. Take the help. Don't let your ego, don't let your pride get in the way of you getting what you need. And so this card, it's basically asking you to look at those 2 sides of the same coin. And it's essentially saying, if you have more than enough, please share. If you don't have enough, please accept. And as we go through life, it's an ebb and flow. There are times when we need help, and then there are times when we need to be helping others. And that's what this card is about. Are you able to provide assistance to someone? Do you need assistance, but are reluctant to ask for it? Is there someone who needs the gift of accepting help, of being able to accept help? Can you give yourself the gift of being able to accept help? That is one of the hardest things for a lot of people. And God forbid, should you have to actually ask for that help. So this card asks us to be compassionate with ourselves and with others. And especially right now, this is just a very nice card to get. It's a very not happy. It's a very warm, fuzzy card to get. So a few more questions. Is there someone around you who needs assistance that maybe you haven't noticed it before? If there is someone, are they likely to be able to accept that help? And if not, how can you help them accept that support? Or how can you help them in a way that doesn't necessarily require them to get past whatever ego block it is and ask for or consciously accept that support? Can you do something nice on the sly for them? So I kind of look at this one from a simplified perspective, and it's basically just the old do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Share with others the same way you would want them to share with you if you were in need. Help others the way you would want to be helped. And the last card is the Six of Swords. This is another card that is really nice to get, depending on the situation. In a lot of ways, this card is about a transition or a journey from difficulty into more ease. Sort of a from rough seas to calm kind of vibe. The card itself is a man, and it looks like a male or female figure, you can't tell. Excuse me. And then a younger figure. They're on a boat, and the man is ferrying them from what is clearly very agitated waters on the bottom right of the card to nice, calm, chill, mellow, glassy water. And the vibe of the people is sort of this, they look like they are trying to escape something, or they are moving in some way, they are trying to get to a better situation. So, this card is kind of the proverbial from rough seas to calm seas. It's about leaving difficulties behind, about positive change, about moving forward in a positive way. You know, this is the card that you hope to see when you're doing a reading, when you just feel like you're so overwhelmed and whatever it is that's going on in your life is freaking bonkers and you need a break and you're getting to the point where it's critical. And then this card comes up and it's like, oh, thank goodness. I can see that the end of the tunnel is coming, that things are going to move from choppy waters to more calm waters. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to go back into choppy water again at some point in your life, but in relationship to the reading and at that point or in that immediate time frame, you are moving in the direction that you want to move. Now, it just depends on how you interpret the tarot. Some people will also interpret this. Those that are really big into looking into the future will look at, you're going to be going on a trip. It's that kind of card. So there is potential that the card could have something to do with travel, although I wouldn't say that that's one of the top interpretations of the card. And then I think the last thing to say about the image itself is, there is a child in the boat, and children are usually a symbol of hope for the future. So this card is really a very positive card in a lot of ways. And what are the questions that you might want to ask yourself? Well, this one is kind of a silly question. Hopefully you don't have to ask yourself. Hopefully you just, like I said earlier, you just breathe a sigh of relief when the card comes up. But if you're not completely clear, you might want to say, okay, what's going on? Or if you've got so much crap going on, if your life is in complete disarray and this card comes up, you might want to ask yourself, okay, well, which of the crazy factor things in my life is this going to apply to? And sort of feel that out and look at the other cards in the reading to get a feel for, okay, it looks like things are going to calm down on the work end, or it looks like things are going to calm down maybe on the chaotic relationship front or whatever. You might want to ask yourself, what are you doing to support yourself during this transition? It could be coming up as not only sort of a carrot to keep moving forward, but also as a suggestion that it's okay for you to take the reins and to get yourself across that choppy body of water into a more peaceful space. So, what are you doing to help support yourself during this crazy time and this crazy transition? Where can you find some much needed calm? And it doesn't matter if it's in your closet because your kids are running around like crazy people, or maybe instead of going right home from work, you stop at the park and sit in your car and meditate for 5 minutes. Just those kinds of things. What can you do? Maybe it's just bringing up, you need to be taking care of yourself. How can you take yourself from this roiled, upset situation into something more calm and peaceful? And lastly, you might want to ask yourself, if you're doing this work as you transition out of the situation. So, are you addressing what you need to address as you're leaving behind? Let's just use a real life example. Let's say this card is coming up because you are leaving an emotionally abusive marriage and you've had it. And you're taking things into your own hands, and you are that figure in that boat sailing on to calmer waters. So if this card comes up in a reading, the question to ask, or one of the questions, might be, are you doing the work that you need to do as you transition out of this situation? Or are you simply turning your back on the pain and hoping it goes away? And leave, literally, are you leaving that pain behind, but not addressing it in a way that you need to address it in order for you to be able to heal? So that's one of the harder questions, but it's a very, very good one to ask. And, there are times when when the answer to that question may be, yeah, sure as heck, I'm trying to avoid this, but I recognize that I'm trying to avoid it. And I just need to get through this situation. I just need to, whatever it is, get my kid settled and into school before I can take some time and focus on helping myself and, looking at the situation and addressing it. So, you're not necessarily completely avoiding it. It may just be a suggestion that this is something that you really need to look at in the future, in order to be able to live your best life, because all of that past crap we have to deal with one way or the other. And if we don't deal with it, trust me, it'll come up and bite you right in the ass. All right, my dears, that is it for the sixes. I hope that that gave you some food for thought. Next week, we'll be talking about the sevens, an odd number, so they are not quite as warm fuzzy as the sixes, but they're not horrible either. So, yeah, so I think that's it. You guys have a fantastic week. Stay warm, stay cozy, stay safe, be nice to others, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.